And the ladies in the back, oh, yeah, American women. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Oh, boy, no, it'd make my marriage to me. I would, without love, there's no point in getting married if you don't love somebody. I wouldn't let no man blah, blah, blah. And old Jacob just let them talk till they ran out. And after a while, he said, well, then, he said, and why is it that the divorce rate in India is 1 out of 20 and over here it is 1 out of 2? And Jacob said, he said, you see, he said, love is something you have to work at. And he said, when you fall in love, you probably fall and break your head. And he, see, I mean, you get messed around those Orientals, you mess around too much, man. They thought I'm on, you thought they thought out. And Jacob said, when in India, the woman must call her husband Lord. And when she get up in the morning, the first thing she must do is kiss his feet. and those women in the back said, you know. That's American women, you know. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 9. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. It is better to marry than to burn. That's clear. It's burning in love. And to the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. That's direct. That's a direct commandment. But if she depart, let her remain unmarried to be reconciled with her husband. A separation, a temporary separation for extenuating circumstances allowed, but she's to get back with her husband. Or remain unmarried, now her body's not to join up with another man. If she's separated and goes off and goes a while and joins her body with another man, then the marriage is busted right there. Fornication, ground of divorce. All right, now verse 15. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. Watch it. A brother or a sister, underline it, is not under bondage in such cases. You're not bound to the party that deserts. So I teach 3 grounds of divorce. Death, fornication, desertion. I've always believed that. I've always taught that. I haven't changed my belief, my teaching one time in 30 years. I used to be the big speaker down at Chautauqua when those fellowships get together, and right after I got remarried, I was going to have an Indiana fellowship down there, and the Indiana group got together and took a vote, and the fellow in charge of youth activities said, now whatever you pastors say the majority will go by majority vote. They took the vote. I forget what it was. I think in 17 pastors, I think 12 of them said, don't have him back, and 5 of them said have him back. And the youth director said, well, in view of the fact the majority of them want him back, I'll go by your decision. We won't have Brother Ruckman back in. But he said, I want to have you fellows know I think a bunch of you are a bunch of hypocrites. He said, you know what Ruckman believed before you had him in. I mean, the stuff I'm giving you right now, I've taught since 1953. And he said, now that he put into practice what he believed, what are you putting the ban on him for him now? Same thing happened with Beach and Dick. About the time the Michigan Fellowship showed up down in Chautauqua, and one year they didn't invite me back in. Beach and Dick was overseas. When he got back from overseas, he called the brethren in and said, what's the big idea of not having Ruckman in? Well, you know, he got married and this and that and this and that and blah, blah. And Beach and Dick said, what's that got to do with it? He said, some of you fellows have been married more than once. And you invite each other in each other's pulpits and swap pulpits. What's wrong with Ruckman? You know what's wrong with some of the brethren? They're cuckoo. That's what's wrong with them. I mean, they're nuts. N-U-T-S, nuts. So next year, Deacon Vic had me back in. Well, next year after that, he died. I haven't been invited back to Temple Baptist since. Unpopular boy. Why? I have no idea why. I was a brother to not me in fellowship years and years ago and still in fellowship. He hadn't changed any. I haven't changed any. What's the deal? Folks still got remarried. You think that's going to change me? You crazy? I mean, you think a fellow gets to be 50 years old, you're going to change him in the next 10 years? Well, let me tell you something. When you're 40 years old, boy, the twig is bent and the tree is grown. No woman's going to change me. I don't care what kind of woman she was. You think any woman going to change me? Don't kid me, boy. Let me tell you something. When those fellows come down there to our school and their wives get in there and watch me, they make up their mind real quick whether their husband called preach or not. Yes, sir, boy, those women sit there and, oh, man, Boy, that'd be a bad influence for my husband, if it gets like that, They don't live in this earth. Any woman gonna tell me what to do. They don't breathe. I mean, deacons' wives, preachers' wives, my wife, nobody. Strange thing, I was out in California one time. This is about 2 years after my wife left me. Big fellowship out there, Bible Baptist Fellowship up there in the mountains, Sequoia National Forest. Sitting around a table, and pretty soon got real quiet. Till a bomb about ready to drop, There was kind of a freeze over things, And the fellow opposite me suddenly looks up and says, "Do you think a man who's divorced should preach?" I said, "Lord, give me something to shut this bird up with." "What'd you say?" I said. And he said, "You think a divorced fellow should preach?" And I said, "Well, look at it this way." I said, "Suppose you and your wife don't get along too well." And boy, when I said that, she turned crimson. The guy's wife sitting next to him. She turned crimson and dropped her head, and he got real nervous. I mean, when you ask the Lord for an answer, you never know who you're going to hit, And I said, "Suppose you and your wife aren't getting along too well, and suppose someday she just up and leaves you, what you going to do?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "You going to quit the ministry?" And he said, "Well, I suppose so." I said, "You been called to preach?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, your wife been called to preach?" He said, "No." I said, "You mean to tell me you'd quit because she quit?" He said, "I never thought about it." I said, "Well, think about it. Please pass the salt." You take this fellow up here in New York, this Bible college, this fellow Clark, wrote somebody and said if his wife left him, he'd drop out of the ministry immediately. I thought to myself, "Well, you chicken-hearted deserter. What a thing, man, to go back on the calling of God because a woman didn't go all the way with you. All this stuff. No man having put his hand to the plow looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Get up and sing that and talk about a thing like that. What a thing, man. What a thing. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 27. Now these things are clear. All right, if I'm bound to a wife. All right, how many of you fellows bound to a wife? Let me see your hand. All right, here's the direct instructions. Seek not to be loose. Now, is that clear? What could be clearer than that? Okay, if I loose my wife. You had a wife, you loose from her. What are your instructions? Seek not a wife. Stay single. But, if you marry, you have sinned. Is that what it says? It says you have not sinned. Not if you loose my wife. Boy, these fellows ought to run you to the Greek. Why if they run you to the Greek on that one, huh? Isn't it funny how they run the Greek to prove what they want to prove, and they get in the place that doesn't prove what they want it to prove, they don't go to it? You see that thing loose right there? Man, that's that word for a bill of divorcement, Matthew chapter 19. A bill of loosing. It's the same word. Wonder why they didn't go to the Greek that time. Prove too much. If thou marry, thou hast not sinned. Now he's talking there about a male in verse 27. Bound to a wife, seek not a wife. If thou marry, thou hast not sinned. Now he's talking about a woman. And if a virgin marry, a woman who had been married before, she hath not sinned. Nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh. But I tell you, marriage, you're going to bring trouble in the flesh. As you husbands and wives undoubtedly know. Because you marry a woman and find out she's not a woman at all. She's a person. Do you ever notice that? Do you ever notice how you fall in love with a man or woman, they turn out to be a person? That's the most discouraging thing. And the thing is, they turn out to be somebody that doesn't like this, and they like this, and don't like this, and can't stand this, and can't, that kind of mess, And the only way you're going to keep your marriage together is both of you compromise. I mean, you have to give in somewhere. I said, no woman's going to chain me, and no woman is. But by the same token, I'm going to have to give in on a few things I like and don't like in order to live my wife, and she's going to have to give in a few things she likes and don't like to get along with me. There's just no way two people get married that all look at everything just exactly the same. Not even twins. All right, so I teach this in marriage. I teach the 3 grounds: desertion, death, and fornication. I believe marriage is permissible in all cases, but advised against. If a remarriage is made, it has to be a Christian. That's in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39 and verse 40. I advise against anybody getting divorced, and any couple having trouble, I'd advise them to forgive and forget and make up, if any means possible, and go to any length to keep the family together. That's what my teaching on it. All right, something else. Yes, sir. Nothing like a Bible to clear up a college education.